Alrighty, so no hearing aids today, but I was looking at the John and Griffith and all this other fucking different shit on Philip DeFranco. I'm 1359 on today's episode, and I was like, oh, so the psychiatrists and people who perform clinical studies happen to acknowledge that different perspectives definitely lead to different results in different settings for psychedelic experiments, ultimately do induce different results. And they didn't like that their findings didn't quite match the same as somebody that used that to get better, ultimately speaking, results. Oh my god, I'm angry. Mine aren't as good as his. And I'm a stupid fucking retard after a while. The fuck? Oh, by the way, I source people that do actually get significant mystical and religious and they already have the fucking mind. And oh, but mine, they didn't do that. Because they don't think that way. What is this? A fucking exercise in retards that don't understand philosophy and fucking perspective? How fucking stupid are PhDs these days? It must be nothing at all to get one. What the fuck? I understand that that's a thing, but it shouldn't. With my massive survivorship bias, where I'll go into this clinical setting that, ultimately speaking, looks like it'll be very successful for one thing or another because I already have it in my mind, I'm doing it for this and blah, 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 blah. Or it's a cold, dark room, it's got this kind of fucking light, or maybe it's a warm, dark room, or maybe it's not any of that. Point is, it's a very obviously fucking flawed survivorship study problem. But every fucking medication they've ever done, which has cherry-picked results, especially without as they can hedge their bets for picking and choosing the very participants with surveys and, you guessed it, online activity, because they have enough money to definitely do this. By the way, here's some money for your things. Maybe it won't work, maybe it will. I fucking hate them. We're already well aware that, like, fucking a placebo with the right shit, with the people influencing you, will give you a higher likelihood of experiencing hallucinogenic symptoms. Basically, everything that they're gonna fucking tell you about for, like, oh, we know the amount of placebo in our studies and how much that this, treatment resistant, that, I guess it's there, but it's not, this isn't really what that's about. For those that aren't really, what the fuck? I keep getting this problem because it's like medicine can help. But at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, no, hey, I spent money to see this guy. Spent money to get this thing. I really want it to work. I need to feel something I understand within this amount of time because generally speaking, about 1 month to 3 months, I'll feel something. As I've spent how much fucking money and time, I really desperately want it to work. Stupid, utter garbage for real world fucking test results that are anecdotal at best, which are definitely too often all about perceptual problems. Especially when it's like, oh, no, look, I'll go into therapy, I'll do this work, and it's like, okay, so like, then we know that training the brain helps. Okay, so training perception and continuing to train and do that over and over. So we understand that it's like lifting. And so you will have to, ultimately speaking, continue to put the time in the gym and then admire your gains later. Standard shit. But they're like, I didn't get this! My fucking psychedelic! It didn't work! And I'm like, Johnson, the guy that you hate knew and understood pretty easily and obviously that this has been going on for well and truly before he was born. It had been used for propaganda reasons for practically every war, and every reason to continue a war. It's the stupidest argument I've ever heard a fucking supposedly smart person make. But behind that is a massive incentive for I'd have to build up my character and trust on all my patients. I'd have to prove that my shit works again. I'd have to prove that all these things. And I had to, and that's so many, look at all these different fucking things. Imagine that there was like a park there, and then there's like this clinical setting, and there's like this fucking, regular living room, and then there's this park that's actually technically are surrounded by a bunch of other like fucking things that scare, you know what I mean? And here's a forest, and here's a desert, and then here's like a whole bunch of fucking other shit, right? Just to fucking frame it for you, Johnson and others. I didn't get this. I'm from Norway. I'm a clinical... I don't give a fuck what the hell you are, you fuck up retard. You didn't understand the basis of what that is. Oh, he has a Buddha and all these things. I have a poster, I dress this way, I have a clipboard, I say these things, I ultimately have to spend money, I have to drive there, there's this placard that says that there's this guy that definitely is, or woman, that is a doctor and knows what they're doing. How fucking stupid do you not see this as? Because I see you as pretty stupid. You won't include that into your survivorship bias data points for your given, because like, how the fuck do you account for that, for one thing? Because you don't, obviously. You don't. Like, seriously, no. I'm going to go over there and I have to do it, and I have to aggregate and statistically, and for this given subjective amount of placebo. How? All of your studies run this way. By the way, he got a better one than me. Oh, so there's a statistical analysis here that this set and setting, which, by the way, that's like psychedelics 101, and everybody perpetuates it. No. If they didn't think this way, they perpetuate it, and so obviously it makes it so that way they think the set and setting matters. So you didn't use that to make better results happen? What? What is this? And oh wait, your set and setting of your clinical setting is not the same. But mine is, and they got better because ultimately they changed that variable and knew what to do to basically get better results. So what we're saying then is your clinical set and setting for these individuals that believe certain things for the use of psychedelics don't like you fucks. You're not perceived as being successful in being able to do something with this. You got told in many different ways with your study that you're a bad trip sitter. And you and all of the fucking researchers that you have are perceived as dick fucks to the people that would like to use it. But no, if I need Wellbutrin. No, if I need this sertraline. No, if I need any of these other things. Oh, well, I guess I'll go to you. And it seems to work. Because we have all these decades, and we have all this stuff, and I'm like, you have a bunch of survivorship garbage with a bunch of societal peer pressuring. You don't have anything. You've never run a study against your own placebo. Correctly, ever. Or your survivorship bias. You've never done it. You've never done, well, the therapy and what happened to change the perspective and what you've never done any of that. You've never aggregated any of those meta-analyses of multiple year studies, which, by the way, even if you have that, it would still not have this to make it so that meta-analysis would be worth jack shit. I don't want to make it so that way I have to build up character and trust with people. And I'm like, dude, as a person that's on medication, I know for a fact medication can still work. But at the same time, the deeper you get in there, the worse that rabbit hole really gets. And all we're seeing is a bunch of drama of people that are like, no, it's very cut and dry, black and white. This very thing is a transistor type of and it never changes for the programming and the perception and all the environmental existential factors that influence the given results. We cannot have that. No, get that out of here. And we definitely cannot have this idea that any of this is from us influencing our given results. And we would never, ever survivorship bias off of like people that are not treatment resistant and basically make it so it seems like it has a greater degree of effect on people that we're probably fairly sure that do have a great higher possibility of a higher chance of positive results. With what amount of money money are you trying to hope to get out of this? Billions upon hundreds of billions. And you have that's right. It's a legal incentive to make the most money for your shareholders as a large pharmaceutical company that pays for your research and your clinical research. Not to mention, my perception as being a big, strong, great, wonderful, you are definitely in all the ways right about us being the best college. We are super. You should for sure think us good. And we're the ones to go to. Your theater that has stumbled upon something that seems to work at times, and you're trying to work it out like every other engineer too. Except they just need to go lever do burr. You're like, oh, I'm a programmer that has to fucking learn how to do lever correctly with all these other gears and all these other levers and all this other fucking shit that if I don't do it the right way, it all fucking breaks. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you on that, but like also you kind of chose the fucking goddamn job. So stop breaking it! Stop trying to say that you did something when you didn't. Shut up. Stop it. I don't like that part. Like, no. There's going to be a light that switches. It's just going to take this amount of time. I can hate you. I do sometimes. Like, you suck. You are the worst at that. Okay? I don't care. It's genuinely the stupidest argument I've ever heard in my life. You know what I mean? It's like, no, we don't have a massive incentive to continue with our entire field study and all this other shit. And I'm like, and now we need to gaslight. He's clearly borderline and all the rest, right? Like, no. You don't understand that you do have this issue. You didn't understand that you had this. And you're going to fight the medications and all the rest. And I'm like, oh, so perception of the psychedelic user experience that fight the fucking thing. So everybody is now borderline. Everyone's borderline, huh? Everyone. Anyone that challenges you, borderline. All right. Any of that. Is that how that works now? Is that how that works now? Are you fucking for real? But that's the argument. That's the argument. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, the DSM says blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. We all know when a certain person or persons gets to a point where they're not really clearly thinking or seeing something, right? We don't know if whether or not that is an extrasensory perception, which, by the way, unfortunately, could possibly be the case, because that's evolution. And that's how, like, honestly, another version of, wow, women apparently can see 4 different colors, eventually got recognized and seen as correct by a bunch of fucked up retards that said, that's not possible, for way too long. And we all know that that's a thing, that are intelligent. But we all know people that got not that, and they think that that's what's going on. But it's real quick for people with authority and a few fucking stupid goddamn sheets of paper to do that to people. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Like, no, I don't have a career that I'd be risking. If I happen to be talked down to, like, my ego is not that, but you're everyone? And I'm like, oh, so they made it, and it's like, no. Go back to the first one, and then they changed it. So it's like, oh, the given perception of society, the norms, the culture, and the laws all ultimately perceptually changed us over time. That altered what those symptomologies of a given disorder happens to be. So what I'm hearing is you refuse to acknowledge that with your studies, so, it's not as good as you say. And I'm like, you're a fucking dick. Like, really, Johnson? And others? It's like, years earlier, Dr. Stressman. Really, Dr. Stressman? Only one individual had a religious experiment. Really? There's this other person. Again, I'll go back just a little bit. Let's see here. There's a bit of hallucinations, spiritual activities. So they were more often perceiving religious and spiritual situations in their life, and so they were primed for that. It's almost like hypnotists and magicians use this, and propagandists and historians working for governments and corporations, for what it's worth, alongside of marketers, do this all the time. What the fuck? It was Natasha Mason. The mystical experience results were very high compared to other groups. I hate people. It's the equivalent of I'm a stick in the mud kind of fucking, anal, sort of too overly pedantic, kind of like know-it-all-ish of a, type of personality. The scientists. They got a hold of something that, like, generally speaking, needs to be kind of approached with, like, a person that is a bit more of a bro or a gal or whatever. And they didn't like the fact that they didn't get as good results. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, so your personality and bedside manner don't fit with this, and your set and setting aren't good with this. So, and I'm as good as the yeah, but that's not really, though. The baby cries when you hold them like that for a reason. You know that, right? No, but it's adequate with the way I hold them. Is it, though? Yeah, just dangling, not going to support that, Is it, though? You're kind of that person who's trying to deny and defend their selves. They're not self-aware, which is kind of a problem I'm having. You know what I mean? Like, they're too damn smart, not ultimately speaking, to know about the survivorship biases and those influences and more for their given fields of study in science. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, this is just an argument about a person that effectively has this personality problem in regards to people that are coming into their space. And like, no, don't come into our space. You're going to mix your little thing with ours, and that's not allowed. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, bro, but girls are allowed here. I kind of want to fuck one as we're playing D&D or something, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, are you sure? I'm the dungeon manager, bitch. She's allowed. Fucking douche fucks is the problem, right? Like, and that's who runs these studies. They're not cool. They're not people that you really want to be around. They're kind of dicks. So they're complaining. And it's like, then also on top of it, it's like, behold, the way they ran this, not good. Behold, the way they set it up, not good. Behold, the things they were thinking to see, denote what that is as well, because that's a highly debatable, subjective, overly biased problem from one to another for their given type of perspective of what denotes what that is, which is a societal, cultural thing. They were all playing with in every way cannot be quantified the way they want it to be type of thing. And then they got all upset about how they couldn't do a 102 and so on. And they had to do something else. What do you know? Bye. So, obviously, I've got to make this apparent because I finished the rest of that whole story, because it's like shit on them time, basically, right? But I didn't really close this the right way. The point about how I do believe medicine helps was, you should relate this and be very obviously able to understand, but, I understand that people aren't really like that. That, yes, I also do understand the reason why I'm like a person that goes after these intrinsic problems of medication is very much as a result of the fact that there are flaws and it does help, and we would be able to help more. Same thing for psychedelics. There are obviously things that can help. There are things that are there that might be overhyped, and there are things that are there that are honestly maybe not that overhyped and might actually be more significant in some aspects. The point is you don't know until you do the fucking research. And you do it properly. I don't like faulty shit research as I wade through tons and tons of it, coming out constantly that doesn't have anything other than some basic bullshit attached to it that doesn't account for much, for the variables that they really ought to be able to at this point with the amount of goddamn actual calculations and ways that they can perform them can be done. You see, the anger is there for a reason. I care. It's not them specifically. It's the fact that the whole situation should not have any money for it to need to be done. It's the good of all that happens that basically makes it a necessity for all of us to do it. It makes no sense that we would be forced to undergo cutting corners like a mafia and expecting a building to not fall down later. Which is what we're doing now. The reason why he warned of a bursting bubble, well, why the fuck do you think? Same thing for a large percentage, unfortunately, of other areas of our life. Think, for instance, because this is, while not the same, it is similar. Our gun rights. We know that they affect others. Right? And there's a healthy way to use guns. Notice I said healthy. Because it's a fun time and you can use them. And honestly, they can also be good defense, right? And it's nice. But we also know there's more than enough people, a percent, that effectively turn into the military equivalent of we allow for this collateral damage. It's like, behold psychedelics. Behold most of our medicines. There's a certain percentage that will absolutely get no help and possibly have a worse outcome. You can't do it perfectly. Now, guns have a higher percentage of this collateral damage that happens far too often, and ultimately it's not just on the singular individual patient. It affects others. If it was just them doing it to themselves, and it was a small missing little pinky toe on your fucking foot, we wouldn't really concern ourselves that much about it, would we? But that's not what that is. Another way to phrase it is, there's an argument here to be made for people that are morbidly obese that should be forcibly institutionalized and placed upon a bunch of different dietary restrictions and medications to help them lose the weight, because of course they're going to harm a bunch of other people by effectively making the healthcare industry cost more, having it such that because of their health issues, they will harm them mentally and emotionally, and they might even ultimately outburst more often, which studies do seem to indicate that they do have a higher degree of anxiety and depression and neuroticism that causes others issues. Not their fault, they say, except that's right, they're addicted to food. So why don't we treat it like that? Right? But we can't Baker's Act them because it's not a mental disorder. Oh wait, it is a mental disorder. When does it become something that we should do? Now, moving on, the BDSM kink scene has joined. Why? This, oh my god, I'm so uncomfortable. That's such a terrible kink shame, kink shame, kink shame. Oh, the eating disorder. You want to be a person with it. Oh, I can't imagine. Oh, should I be uncomfortable? Does it affect, are they using it? Do you really believe that they'll use it against you? Like, are you going to like talk to them about that? I see today on Reddit. Every one of those damn comments. Oh my god, that's so terrible. You should break. Oh, kink shame. They're consenting adults. They're well aware and want the abuse. Do you not know what BDSM is? Are you fucking stupid? But I was personally a person that was affected by this. Okay. Look at this other community that says, I want to be abused and traumatized. I was personally abused and traumatized. I'm uncomfortable with you having this kink. You pussy! Hit me more! Mentally destroy me more! I'm uncomfortable! Yeah, but just like with religion, because this is what it was leading to, religion affects others. And we all know that that's a individual person's choice. And, by the way, they'll use it as a justification and rationalization to do other things to others. Just like I have a really big sexual desire to do this to you. Could we talk about it a little bit? You know, could we, maybe, you know. No. Okay. Or, no, but like, I'm going to say no, but then it's going to be a little while. I'm thinking, I see. So you can't trust anyone. Just like you can't trust those naughty, naughty religions. Just like you can't trust that naughty, naughty government. Just like you can't trust that naughty, naughty corporation. Just like you can't trust most things. There's a pattern here I'm seeing here. Wherein, if, honestly speaking, you address it and you go along and it's okay enough, then it's who gives a shit and get over it, effectively. Seriously, that's literally all it is. That's called being mature in a relationship. Not even a joke. But if you are that uncomfortable, then that's called a deal breaker. Not a kink shaming moment, which is what all these fucking retards on this subreddit said. Same thing for this other one where it's like they like big boobs and butt and there's posters everywhere. So they like that? Okay, but like, oh, well, they said they would get me this plastic surgery, and I don't want that. Well, then tell them that. Why are you going to the subreddit, you fuck up? What the fuck? How did you get a relationship and I can't? How does this work? And yet, that's what's going on. Look at this stupid that exists around you, can vote and breathes and all the rest, that don't consider things, don't think about it very much, and genuinely think that my desire for my uncomfortableness of this given thing should mean I should be allowed to shame, blame, and harm these other people. I.e., no, we're not a religion. What? You're acting like that religion, though, that you don't like. No, but this is definitely justified and rationalized to being with my echo chamber of validation in my bubble online that is so bad that I'm allowed to now. Really, is it? But they say the same for you. But no. What do I say? You're not allowed to discriminate. Basic shit. Don't do that. Unless it's affecting you. And ultimately, others that don't want to be affected, and it needs to be talked and discussed to how to set that up so that way it isn't a problem, which is called communication and being mature, then you should shut the fuck up. Shut the ever-loving fuck up, because you are absolutely perceptual bias here, not realizing that because you perceive it like it's bad, but these ones do not, and they are accepting and consenting to this. You have no legs to stand on. By that definition. Do you get it now? Do you understand how stupid that is? You're like, no, I'm not like this, and stop equating us to and doing the same exact almost like actions and allowing for us to do this to others. Really? Behold, this has nothing to do with us as medical professionals. Why would you say that? I would never. I don't want to be on that terrible medicine. I know all of the problems. You can't treat me like that. I need this surgery. Okay, what now? You won't do it. But they... Okay, wait a second here. But also, my study is perfectly biased in every way, and it has none of the... But you don't know anything, and you're making claims and all this other stuff that's not a thing that exists in art. You have some flaws here, dude. Are you aware of what's called cognitive dissonance? It's definitely special treatment for yourself. Basically, the word phrase. I'm allowed, but not you. And for my situation and my stuff, it's good. And it's like, could you explain why it's good for you, though? Could you do, it's probably not going to be that hard. Could we, like, go over the reasons why and everything instead of you just saying that? But no, I find it, and it's so bad. Obviously, the eating, obviously with the surgery, obviously with this massive bias, obviously with this gun, obviously with this eating disorder that do I have control? Fat acceptance, when does it become a bad thing? When are you being enabled to have an addiction? What's going on there? Huh? Well, when? When does the definition meet? You are unaware of something in your disorder. That means you need someone to Bakersfield act your ass. What, medical professional? What, unfortunately morbidly obese person? What, BDSM person that doesn't have the knowledge of consent, doesn't have the knowledge of these different ways of seeking out help for when it is getting too bad, or the symptoms and ultimately effects when it is? Same with you, morbidly obese person. Same with you, medical professional. Do you get it yet? Do you see how... No, these are totally unrelated. In no way would this cognitive perception ultimately influence our decision making and perception of, like, me allowed, that not... And that's not a thing that we should change or do anything about and we should put up with, and ultimately that's bad, but, like, I'm allowed for this thing and it's not that bad thing for this. I live with this every day. This is just me all the time. I have this problem. Everyone I know does this everywhere online and everything. It seems like in my real life, but, like, not totally that, but it does come up pretty often. And it's a problem because it's like, behold, these are really smart people with PhDs. It's like, yeah, but they were never taught about this. And they still fell into the trap. They didn't learn that, like, they're obviously in a biased situation where it's acceptable for them to have this thing, and everybody goes along with it in society. Going on. There's a comma there for the everything goes along, that little chunk of a sentence. Anyways, it's a whole thing, though, for ultimately how they set up those studies and truthfully pay the very FDA to approve them, which isn't really what that is, but they do pay him to look at it. But, you see how fast it's like, maybe he's on this side. I want him to immediately, oh, okay. So, like, you're not one of those guys that thinks that they pay them to just basically approve of a study. Whoa, I'm not. But you were probably thinking that, right? Because you're getting hit, and it's defensive, and he's equating, and these are not, well, you do have a bit of an argument, but, like, actually, wait, we should have, why am I not allowed to run these studies properly? Because you make more money. You know that. because you ultimately have a given status quo to protect. Because ultimately speaking, you have a given type of authority in situation and bubble that is not allowed to be something else. Do you see what I mean? It's a problem. It's not allowed to grow. It's not allowed to change. It's not allowed to admit to a fault. It's not allowed that, oh no, we didn't maybe know. And man, that'd be decades of trying to get people back on our side. Not to mention a bunch of pharmaceuticals that would have to have been very much in the wrong, and they would probably ultimately go under and bankrupt. And that's a lot of jobs and a good portion of our economy. Same thing for the bias of your college and the ability for your professors to be good enough to teach anything. And oh my god, it just gets worse from there, doesn't it? Do you understand why you asking that question highlights why they would make sure you don't think about that for very long? Why you wouldn't really want to address the issue very much? Even though I'm like, well, yeah, no, I mean, sure, there are issues with some of that. Absolutely. And yes, there are things that are there that could be done better, and things that are there that should be done, and things that it might not be able to do, and things that it can do, and things that we'll probably discover it's doing that we didn't know before. As fucking always is the case. Ugh. But if you literally have such a literal strong-ass fucking foundation, there's not a way in hell anyone can say anything about it, then aren't you literally done with like 50 or more % of the battle for getting someone to try something and approving something and all that? You really can't fucking argue with someone that literally goes through so much that you end up going like, fine, just shut up, I get it. You address every concern! Ah! You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's that thing. And it's like, despite Johnson and Mason and all these other people, it's still what it is. Okay? Because I agree, psychedelics could be something. But I also agree that obviously they're not going to be for everyone. And, oh, I didn't feel any effects. Well, fuck. Whoa. Treatment-resistant psychedelic guy or gal. Obviously going to show up in the fucking results. Are you kidding me? They all exist. Every medication seems to have something that just doesn't fucking get anything from it. Shocker. Like, oh, but I didn't. I'm like, and, oh, by the way, no, that's not really, keep it on the download in my little study. Well, some of them happen to do it, but they're not going to be a part of this other fucking statistical analysis I did for these ones that did actually have something happen. I.e. treatment-resistant or non-responders versus the ones that did and didn't, and not so much. Really, it's such a big deal. You don't make it a big deal in your studies, and it certainly increases the percentage of actual help it seems to have done. Or is he really just playing the same game you're playing and you caught him doing the same thing and you're like, no, my mirror, that's me. Fucking shitwads sometimes, though. See ya.